who should be responsible for telling you the risks and dangers associated with new drugs and supplements? Is it the store clerk from the place that you're buying it from? Is it the actual company making the drug itself? Or should you be personally responsible for this? So this is an incredibly important question that we don't actually think about that often. And I was only thinking about it because I read this recent study that both horrified me and also made me laugh at points. So let me explain the study and then we'll discuss the implications of this. So this study was a secret shopper study done in Texas. So in Texas, Delta 9 THC is not legal, but Delta 8 and Delta 10 as of right now are in some weird legal loophole. So they can be sold, and they are being sold at places like smoke shops. So these are places that typically sell nicotine, and they're also selling things like Delta 8, and they're also selling things like Kratom. So this study was done to see how people at the smoke shops were actually talking about things like Delta 8 and Kratom. So what they did is they had basically pharmacy students go in pairs. So they grouped them together and they would go in and they had this script that they had to memorize. So they had to be able to recite the script verbatim before they were allowed to go to the smoke shops. And then they also had to memorize the specific backstory. And let me tell you that this script and backstory were not written by people who should be writing scripts and backstories. So the script was basically like, I have never heard of this drug. Could you please, sir, tell me about this drug? What are the risks? Does it produce a high? Should I take it while I'm pregnant? And while one of the people was asking about these very innocuous topics that everyone brings up at a smoke shop, somebody else, their partner, was just taking notes on their phone. But they stopped doing that if it looked too suspicious, said the study. Like, this entire thing is not suspicious enough as is. So these people walk into the smoke shop and say, hey, I would like to know all of your information, please, on Kratom. And then if they were asked, that's when they brought up this backstory. They got into a car accident and they were addicted to medication for a while, but they really prefer anything that's natural. So like, would these drugs actually be better for them than like the Vicodin that their doctor prescribed? And they were also supposed to tell the people that they are not currently pregnant, but are potentially thinking about getting pregnant in the future. As though that is coming up in a normal conversation too. Like, these backstories are just wild to me. Who is going in and doing this? But anyways, they had their script and then they went out to 100 different smoke shops around San Antonio and Austin. So they talked about two different things. So first, they talked about Delta 8 or the Delta 10. It didn't seem to be broken down by what version of THC they were talking about. And then they also talked about Kratom. And what they found was that clerks kind of had some common things about both of them to say. So THC, they did say that it had risks for things like sedation, it had risks for things like psychiatric problems and GI problems as well. And then with Kratom, the number one risk that was mentioned was something like dependence, and then psychiatric and GI problems were listed after that too. They listed pain and insomnia as two of the top reasons why people were using THC. And for Kratom, they listed things like they were taking it to try to treat withdrawal from other drugs, specifically opioids, as well as for pain and psychiatric symptoms. So they're saying that it could potentially help with things like depression. They also were more likely to mention that THC could produce some sort of high. They didn't say that as often for Kratom, so only like 2/3 of them said it for Kratom, and basically everyone said it for THC. And they did say that THC could be seen on a drug test, but that Kratom would likely not be seen on a drug test. And some even had like pamphlets for Kratom. So about like 1 in every 10 stores had a pamphlet available for Kratom for people who were interested in it. And very few places had that for Delta 8 or Delta 10. Now, they did say that most people did not say you should be taking either of these things during pregnancy, although there was one sales clerk who apparently was telling stories about how she smoked during multiple pregnancies. So don't know what was happening there, but I'm guessing that's just like a one-off situation. Side note, most people don't want to hear your drug stories, and I say this as a person who studies drug stories. Although I must admit, Salvia stories, y'all, some of those are wild, so I might be okay with that. Why does everyone turn into an inanimate object? Those questions I wouldn't have known had people not told me their Salvia stories. So anyways, the results of this study basically said that like, oh, hey, these clerks are not telling about their risks. They would not tell information about the risks of the drugs until somebody asked them. And they were also like, yeah, and sometimes we were given misinformation about these drugs. But the question that I came up with at the end of this study was like, okay, why are you expecting clerks to be your source of information on these new drugs? Like, why did you run this study in the first place? I don't understand why we're putting like the onus on random clerks at places that sell these to be your source of information about new drugs. And then that got me thinking, who is the person who's actually responsible for this? Which is the question that I asked at the beginning. And I don't honestly know this answer. So as a drug scientist, I am making this TikTok to give you this information because I don't feel like there's accurate information in that many places. And honestly, it's kind of annoying to do this sometimes. I get yelled at by a lot of random people. People tell me all the time, like, why are you using the words Addy? I'm sorry, but we are actively censoring information about drugs a lot of the time because of the stigma attached to them. And it's really difficult to have to give this information in a variety of forums that all censor this information. Like, I don't want to use inappropriate terms, but the world that I live in means that we are not allowed to use proper terms because we can't have people hearing the information about it. How else are they going to get the information? Are they going to get pamphlets at the local smoke shops? Because that's apparently a way that people are getting information about kratom, and that's scary to me. So you could say, okay, well, we should force the manufacturers to do it. But we have so many unregulated drugs out there. That's part of the problem. Things like kratom and Delta H, there's really no regulation on them right now. So in a lot of cases, people can put whatever they want to on packages. If they say things like not for human consumption, they can make them as pretty as they want to. And for things like vitamins and supplements, as long as they don't make a claim that is treating depression or treating anxiety, if it's just treating mood, they can say that all they want to. So why are we expecting random sales clerks to be able to give qualified, educated information about kratom when they're not paid to actually do that? Should we expect the same from a clerk at a liquor store? You go to a local vitamin store, do you expect them to tell you that your St. John's wort that you're purchasing might be bad with antidepressants, or might have problems with lowering efficacy of birth control, or like your blood thinners? Probably not. So where are people getting this information? And why are we expecting it from random clerks at smoke shops?